ATP, what it do with your boy Claymore Rain? I'm back at you guys with another one. Man, salute to all my subscribers, all of the support that you guys give me, give this channel, this platform. I can't even put it in words on how grateful I am for that support, man. Thank you to all of you guys. Guys, if this is your first time tapping into the content, I am going to go ahead and invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit your bell icon next to the subscribe button, the notification button, so you are getting noticed when I'm dropping content like this. And guys, you're in the channel, you're watching the video. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Huge help on getting this in the algorithm where it needs to be. It is what it is, though. Let's move forward. Final press conference in the bag. We've been following and waiting on this card for a long time. Me personally, waiting on this particular card for a long time. We've got Edgar Berlanga, Hamza Shiraz headlining this card. We've got William Zepeda and Shakur Stevenson co-headline this card. We've got Subriel Matias and Alberto Puello fighting for a WBC super lightweight title. And we've also got the return of David Morrell on this card, fighting against Imam Katiev. This will be David Morrell's third fight in the light heavyweight division, coming off of a loss with David Benavidez. Big fight that happened earlier this year in February. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Guys, this press conference was an exciting press conference to watch, right? A lot of things going on in this press conference at the same exact time. But did this press conference sell the fights on this card as well as it could? I think there's an argument there to go either way. There's an argument to say, yes, drama sells. There was a lot of drama here, but was there enough focus on the actual fights? To each their own. At times, it had some cringe moments, but let's talk about what we were able to walk away with. Let's revisit a little bit of the storyline behind these great fights. And more importantly, let me go ahead and share with you my final picks and why I think these guys are going to move in the direction they're going to move into. I mean, ultimately, whatever my decision is or whatever my pick is, whatever my opinion is, we won't really know what's going to happen until Saturday night. But let's talk about it. And let's start with the big fight on the card. Or should we go the other way? You know what? Let's go the other way. Let's start off on Imam Katiev and David Morrell. Guys, yesterday, we didn't know if this fight was going to happen, right? I mean, let's be honest. We didn't know if this fight was going to happen. Rumor was out there. I don't even think it was rumor, right? The ITA, right, put out an article or a statement saying that Imam Katiev had came back with some adverse findings in his testing from 2 years ago, or like a year and some change ago in 2024, basically finding that he had some performance enhancement drugs in his system. They went ahead and put out a suspension on him that was going to start from June 2025, where a month ago or a couple of weeks ago, that was going to carry over until June of 2027. Well, that timeline doesn't line up with the fact that he's supposed to be fighting against David Morrell this weekend. So questions were out there as to whether or not this fight was going to happen. Didn't know what was going to happen. I guess today we got that answer. Why? Because we saw Imam Katiev sitting right up there on that press panel, getting ready to and ready and in the building, flown in from New Zealand or Australia, getting ready to fight David Morrell. So the fight is on. Let's talk about it. Where are we at on this? David Morrell coming off of his most difficult, biggest challenge against David Benavidez, up and coming potential future face of PBC and of the light heavyweight division as far as boxing is concerned. David Benavidez took that fight, made that fight happen against the better judgment of his handlers, who looked like they wanted to make another fight against Jesse Hart happen. David Benavidez did what boxing fans love to see fighters do. He took his career in his own hands, and he made a fight happen that was going to make a difference in boxing. We didn't want to see him fighting against a fighter who he was overly favored against, wanting to see him fight against the best competition available. He delivered for the boxing space, and we got that in February. David Morrell going into this fight as a fight that everybody wanted to see based off of the history these guys had at 168 pounds. Both these guys seem to be a dominant force of nature at 168, and we want to see these two forces of nature run into each other and deliver us the caliber and live fight that we thought we'd get. Very rarely do you get an opportunity to see fighters young in their prime get an opportunity to show out and showcase their talents. David Benavidez made it happen. Of course, a great dance partner in David Morrell showed up as well, and we got the fight. David Morrell falls short, showed that when it came to the experience department, this is where he's going to fall short at. And David Benavidez was able to work that pressure, work that high punch output, work that beautiful shot placement, and understanding of the dynamics of that squared circle and how to work with it in a proficient way that David Morrell just wasn't ready to maintain and take David Benavidez out, nor beat him on a scorecard with the judges after 12 rounds. But 12 great rounds for David Morrell. He walks away with that experience against quite frankly, and possibly the best light heavyweight in that division. What did that do for David Morrell? Did he walk away a better fighter from that? There's an argument to say that he probably did, right? Fights like that help develop fighters. He walked away. He wasn't stopped. He just lost on the scorecards and had moments in that fight against David Benavidez, even hurting David Benavidez at moments in that fight. So David Morrell has nothing to hang his head low about, but needing an opportunity to follow up, give another performance in the light heavyweight division that's going to stick him back in that conversation and put him right back up there to be in front of the Joshua Buatsi's, the Anthony Yards, the Caleb Smiths, the Ben Whitakers, the Artur Beterbiev, the Dimitri Bivens, and yes, even the David Benavidez again. Wanted to keep his name there. This fight right here might deliver on it. He's a PBC fighter, not fighting on a PBC card, but look, Turkey doesn't discriminate. He gives him the big opportunity to fight against an up-and-coming Eastern European Russian fighter fighting out of Australia in Imam Katiev. This guy right here, if you haven't watched him, not a big fan base. Not a lot of people may be familiar with him, but I've done some video study on him and a very, very gamed opponent. Great mid-range, close-range game plan, high knockout ratio, loves to throw his punches in bunches, great shot selection, will work that body, has an overhand right that is not to be played with, and a pretty decent amount of power he's able to generate out that left hand. He brings that Eastern European style, right? So he's only 10 plus fights. He's like 10 to 11 fights into his pro career, but that amateur background, just like we've seen with these Eastern Europeans, when you look at Vasily Lomachenko or Alexander Usyk, or when you look at Emmanuel Stanionis or Serhii Bahachuk, or even now Bakram Murtazaliev. When you look at these Eastern European fighters, they bring in that crazy amateur background, and it seems like whatever they're doing in that amateur background translates pretty well into the pro box style. And Imam Katiev just being another Eastern European, adding to that understanding and that narrative out there that these Eastern Europeans are not only here to participate, but maybe even here to take over. Imam Katiev is game, high knockout ratio, a lot of power he can generate in both hands. But look, man, he's fighting against a taller David Morrell, longer arms than David Morrell, and somebody who has a lot of IQ and a lot of athleticism in David Morrell. David Morrell has an opportunity right now to do something great. Where am I at in this fight right now? Well, listen, if David Morrell can dial in, get on the same page as his legendary coach and Ronnie Shields, work as Ronnie Shields needs you to work, stay patient, stay poised, stick to the game plan. Don't listen to the crowd. Don't be so caught up in showcasing and entertaining the crowd. Focus on perfectly and accurately executing a game plan that you guys have been working on for 3+ months to get in front of this ring. And we might see David Morrell go ahead and get himself right back in that conversation. I'm leaning towards David Morrell to go ahead and take the win in this one. I got this about a 55-45, maybe even a 60-40, leaning towards David Morrell. But hey, man, let's see what Imam can do. Maybe he can make it happen. A close fight potentially, depending on the kind of Dave Morrell that comes into the ring. If he chooses to fight Katiev's style of fighting, if he stays mid-range and tries to win the close range and tries to out-dog Imam Katiev, or tries to out-punch him and makes this a war and a fight instead of a boxing match, which is well within the wheelhouse of David Morrell, then this fight might be a little bit more competitive than it should be. Either way, great dance partners, stylistically great fight. Can't wait to see how that fight goes. Let's move forward to Subriel Matias now and Alberto Puello. Guys, Subriel Matias 2 years ago, the guy, one of the guys at 140, a dangerous guy who nobody wanted to get in the ring with. But the one thing Subriel Matias was able to bring to the table was, if you had aspirations of becoming undisputed or unifying titles at the 140-pound weight class division, you had to deal with this inconvenient truth, this unstoppable force of nature called Subriel Matias. Subriel Matias loses his title against Liam Paro last year and has a uphill battle on making it happen to get his fight that he was going to need to put him in position to challenge for a title again. not only challenge for the title, but maybe even be able to force a fighter like a Richardson Hitchens to honor a mandatory to give him another opportunity becoming an IBF champion. Richard Hitchens, we've watched it. Richardson Hitchens went ahead and made a fight happen with George Kambosos, pulled him up from 135 and was able to stop George Kambosos, make a name for himself at 140 pounds, but get out of the Subriel Matias crosshairs or conversation. So what was Subriel Matias going to do, and what could he do to make it happen? Well, leave it to Turki Al-Sheikh to see that talent and try to do his best to give that talent a platform to showcase to the world why he should be in the conversations with the biggest fights happening at 140. He gets him an opportunity to get in front of Alberto Puello, a recently crowned WBC champion. This guy also on a redemption journey, as he lost an opportunity to become a WBA champion about 3 years ago against Rolly Romero when he popped for adverse findings on a performance enhancement drug test. This performance enhancement drug test is getting a lot of people in trouble. Shout out to Eddie Reynoso and his camp, who seem to not be able to get out the crosshairs of a hot positive test. I digress. Return to the fact that Alberto Puello got an opportunity. He returns, fought against Gary Antoine Russell. Gary Antoine Russell coming in off a bit of a hiatus and a little bit of a 1.5 year plus layoff. Came up short in that fight, and Alberto Puello was able to walk away with an interim WBC title, which ultimately we saw after Devin Haney took a loss against Ryan Garcia and choosing to go ahead and take a hiatus from the sport for a little over a year, became a champion in recess, and in turn elevated Alberto Puello into a full WBC champion. Now, as a champion, defending his title against a very gamed Sandor Martin, a Sandor Martin who arguably beat the lineal champion in the division right now, Teofimo Lopez. Even though he lost it on the judges' cards, a lot of people visually would have to say, did Sandor Martins really lose that fight, being that he sat Teofimo in his pockets and really just showed a high pedigree of boxing? He showed up against Alberto Puello, showed out against Alberto Puello, and arguably beat Alberto Puello, but Alberto Puello was able to edge it out for the judges, walk away with a split decision, and kept his title. Nonetheless, Alberto Puello having a very valuable 24 rounds against two formidable opponents showed that he can deal with the puncher, the high knockout ratio of a Gary Antoine Russell, but still tone it down and deal with the pedigree and the high Q of a master class boxer in Sandor Martin. Great rounds. We can say that Alberto Puello has shown his durability and his ability to compete on multiple levels in his game. The wrinkles to his game are endless. The tools in his bag, I don't know if we've seen them all. This guy's a talented boxer. Not a big talker, right? But a great showcase of talent when it comes to being inside that ring. Subriel Matias on his road back to redemption understands that on the back of this victory, becoming a WBC champion in this division finally puts him where he needs to be, which is in the unification conversation, in the undisputed conversation. And if he impresses on this big stage against Turki Al-Sheikh, he might even have a financer behind him willing to make him not only a high risk fighter, but go ahead and bring up that reward and make him any fighter on any given Sunday's biggest or equivalent to their biggest payday. Big fight for Subriel Matias. Is Subriel Matias going to be able to go ahead and apply that pressure? What has he learned in his experience over his past couple of fights coming off of a victory, dealing with his worst nightmare, according to a lot of detractors who've seen Subriel Matias and said, listen, as much of a puncher as this guy is, as much power as he's able to generate, and as dangerous as he is in the ring, as far as a boxer is concerned, we don't expect Subriel Matias to walk into 12 rounds and walk away with decisions. Seems like he's always been able to take it out of the judges' hands and get himself that victory against all odds. Well, Alberto Puello, a master class boxer, high level, high IQ boxer, very high probable chances goes into 12 rounds. Has Subriel Matias learned anything that has improved his pedigree enough to compete at that kind of level with an Alberto Puello and walk away with a possible decision, or maybe even cut the ring off and be able to put Alberto Puello in a horrible position where he's dealing with having to weather the storm of the reigning power that Subriel Matias brings to the table? I think this fight is close to a 50-50 fight, right? I'm leaning towards Alberto Puello to walk away with this. Look, I'm looking for Subriel Matias to show me different. Let me see how he deals. Let me see how Subriel Matias deals with the boxer, Alberto Puello, with any boxer in the space. I can tell you this. If he's able to go ahead and match that pedigree or even have enough to cut that ring off and land those shots that are going to count and potentially stop Alberto Puello, or even in a best case scenario, in my opinion, for Subriel Matias, walk away with a decision, That will be very telling about what we can look at as far as Subriel Matias is going to do at 140 pounds. Now, nonetheless, Subriel Matias, at worst case scenario, on the back end of a loss, will still, I believe, deliver an action-packed fight, a great dance partner for some of your favorite fighters at 140. You can't lose with this one. It's a close fight. The one who's going to walk away with a victory, I can guarantee you, will be the fans. The one I'm leaning towards as far as fighter taking the victory, I got to lean towards the pedigree, man. That sweet science rarely lets us down. I think Alberto Puello is the one walking in with the edge in that department, in that conversation. I'm going to lean towards Alberto Puello to walk away with a victory. Let's move on to the next fight, co-headlining Shakur Stevenson against William Zepeda. This fight right here, guys, in the making for almost 3 years now, since Shakur Stevenson has entered the 135-pound weight class division, been looking for his Huckleberry, looking for that dance partner. Who is it that's going to force him to show the world what he can do, as Shakur Stevenson has been able to put on master classes against lesser opponents, ultimately not tapping into that tool bag, doing what he has to do to walk away with victories, and has built some animosity amongst the boxing fans who have been dying to see him be an action-packed fighter. We saw Shakur Stevenson trying to get into negotiations with William Zepeda about 3 years ago, and it seemed like Golden Boy wasn't that interested in making that fight happen at that time. We saw Shakur Stevenson tried to coordinate with an Emmanuel Navarrete, who was coming up as a 130-pound WBO champion, to challenge for the vacant 135-pound WBO title that Devin Haney left behind when he went up to 140, and he wasn't able to make that happen. We saw Emmanuel Navarrete get in the ring with a Dennis Berinchyk and take a loss, making Dennis Berinchyk that WBO title holder. Then we saw him try to make a fight with Frank Martin. Saw that fight this close to happening, but it falls apart, as Frank Martin says he didn't like the terms and conditions to the contract, wanted more money, wanted more respect, walked away from that, and left Shakur Stevenson high and dry. Ultimately, his last fight being the leftovers of Frank Martin, but able to go ahead and create a great performance, in my opinion, against Haratunian. But at the same time, being that he was at the end of his contract with ESPN, we saw the camera follow the crowd as they were leaving. The fight became boring. Somewhere around the 5th, 6th, 7th round, you started seeing people walk out of the building, and didn't do too much to, really didn't do anything great for Shakur Stevenson's career. On the back end of, if I forgot to bring it up, a horrible performance due to hand injuries against Edwin De Los Santos about a year prior to that, right? So on the back end of that, Shakur Stevenson's been on an uphill battle to show and prove that he is one of the highest prize fighters in the game. He should be one of those guys headlining pay-per-views. He should be getting into the biggest fights. We've seen him chasing down the likes of a Gervonta Tank Davis, trying to make that fight happen, but not able to get Gervonta Tank Davis to concede to, okay, let's make that fight happen next. Here he goes, an opportunity with a gamed William Zepeda, who was a number one across every sanctioning body, all the way across the board, gets to get a fight with this guy, William Zepeda, who's known for pushing the pace, having a high punch output, and really just being one of those flat-footed, come forward, all pressure, all punching power Mexicans. The great dance partner historically between a Mexican, a flat-footed puncher, and a slick black fighter. This right here has FOTY written all over it. Fight of the year candidate potential if Shakur Stevenson can come ahead with the X factor, the intangible that everybody's been talking about in this game, which is his hands. Are the hands going to be able to be fully healed, rehabilitated? If not 100%, how close to 100% was Shakur Stevenson able to rehabilitate those hands? And what does that look like and manifest to and turn into in a fight against a fighter like William Zepeda, who will not, and we're not expecting to be able to let off his foot off the gas, will continually apply that pressure to Shakur Stevenson. And the only answer that can domesticate this wild animal in William Zepeda will be Shakur Stevenson at times standing there, trading, hitting, not getting hit, hitting him with power, making him respect the power, and ultimately walking away with a victory. Where am I at with this fight? I think Shakur Stevenson has shown a lot of confidence in his press conference. He's shown a lot of confidence in the building up of this fight. He's been looking for this fight for damn near 3 years. This is a huge fight for him. An opportunity on the back end of having to fight Josh Padley, as a fight fell apart with Floyd Schofield in Riyadh season. I can't believe I didn't bring that up. I mean, just bad luck after bad luck for Shakur Stevenson. Is this the moment for him? Has it culminated to this moment right now where we finally have a healthy Shakur Stevenson fighting in New York, right across the bridge from his hometown of Newark, New Jersey? Shakur Stevenson seems dialed in and understands the ramifications of a loss, the consequences of a loss on this fight. and the rewards of a victory, a dominant victory in front of a Turki Al-Sheikh on a Ring Magazine card, where a lot of people feel like he should be headlining, but co-headlining nonetheless. A huge opportunity for Shakur Stevenson. What do I expect? Guys, I'm not going to lie to you. This fight right here, I see Shakur Stevenson walking away with the victory. Get this, maybe even stopping William Zepeda. Shakur Stevenson has an underrated mid-range and close-range fight game. Doesn't get hit in that mid-range, close range, but is able to generate just enough power to make a difference. Body work, unlike anybody else, able to go ahead and land uppercuts in the middle of your punches, in between that high guard, hit his opponents with shots that don't show up until the fourth, fifth, sixth round as accumulating damage. And we see those fighters that gas starts to get low and those fighters start to lose the will to move forward. We saw him do that against Josh Padley. Can he do that with William Zepeda? Look, I think stylistically, this fight is the kind of fight that Shakur Stevenson can get that done with. A fighter who lets his hand go as much as William Zepeda does has just as many openings to be hit as he is letting his hands go, right? So your hands can't be at the same place, guys. We know this, right? This is not rocket science. If your hands is out here, it can't be here at the same time. So Shakur can capitalize off that. Will he be the faster fighter, the more athletic fighter, the slicker fighter? Will he be the fighter with the higher IQ? Yes. His shot selection, second to none. His ability to hit you with those significant shots, those liver shots, those body shots, hitting you with those hooks, those uppercuts, testing that chin, consistently following it up with an even amount of pressure that can break any fighter that gets in front of him. I think Shakur Stevenson is in a position stylistically to deliver a fight of the year worthy performance. And I think this fight right here takes him to the next chapter, more than leaning towards Shakur Stevenson to do this. But let's see what William Zepeda is also able to do with Coach Panda, who's very familiar with Shakur Stevenson, understands what he's dealing with. How does Coach Panda push William Zepeda in this? Does he push him to try to overpower Shakur? Does William Zepeda all of a sudden become a boxer now and want to outbox and out-jab Shakur Stevenson? And how does that look for him if he leaves his true identity that got him to the big show? Is he confident enough in what got him to the big show to bet on that, taking him past Shakur Stevenson and become a WBC champion in a lightweight division? Time will tell. We'll see how that plays out. Those guys meet up Saturday. I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm more than leaning towards Shakur Stevenson, but more than willing to see William Zepeda shock the world and shock this content creator right here, right? And let's get into the headliner championship fight between not a championship fight, but with a headliner on this pay-per-view card, Hamza Shiraz and Edgar Berlanga. This one right here, a fight. I like to call this one, just like I called Devin Haney and Brian Norman, this may be the fight you never knew you wanted, but you want it so bad when you take a close look at it. Hamza Shiraz coming in off of a lackluster performance against Carlos Adames off his last opportunity on Riyadh season. This is an opportunity for him to become a WBC champion at that time at 160 pounds. Hamza falls short, walks into the ring, supposedly off of a bad weight cut and injuries to his hands, unable to let his hands go, being on his bicycle. Carlos Adames was able to clear that mid-range, fight Hamza Shiraz on a close range and mid-range game, and it looked like Hamza didn't have too many answers for what Carlos Adames seemed to be able to do at will throughout the whole entire fight. That fight went 12 rounds, but a lot of people feel like, and I can co-sign, Hamza Shiraz may have been gifted a victory, or gifted a draw in that fight, which almost works out as a victory for him, as it didn't put a loss in the column and still left him in a conversation to be able to have some redemption. Well, and after that fight, Hamza Shiraz has made some adjustments to not only his game but to his team, as he's added in Andy Lee. Guys, if you don't know who Andy Lee is, he used to fight for Emanuel Steward and work with Emanuel Steward. So may be Emanuel Steward's last actual student before he passed away. Rest in peace to the great Emanuel Steward. But coming through with that crunk style, you might have seen Andy Lee in the corner of the likes of Tyson Fury, or you see him working with Joseph Parker now, or even working with Ben Whitaker. He is making a name for himself as far as a coach is concerned in this boxing space, that you just can't ignore him. And now adding Hamza Shiraz to his roster and putting that work into Hamza Shiraz comes with those intangibles, those physical attributes that somebody like Andy Lee or Emanuel Steward, if he was alive, would have loved to work with, right? Long arms, tall, great jab, great IQ, great discipline. As an Islam, as a Muslim, praying 5 times a day, shows that discipline, shows that coachability, shows how serious he's taking this sport. Hamza Shiraz is not here for play. He's not here to participate. He's here to take over. He fell short against Carlos Adames, but just like Turki has done with a lot of other fighters, said, listen, We'll let that one slide. I'm going to throw you into your next best opportunity. First, let's get you out of 160 since you said it was a bad weight cut. Secondly, let's get you in front of a fighter who just fought a fighter we want to see you fight against in Canelo Alvarez. Hamza Shiraz gets an opportunity for that redemption. What does he do with it? Does the adjustments, the addition that he's made to his team, get him across that finish line, get somebody true on his resume at 170, at 168, excuse me, and Edgar Berlanga? Is he able to upset Edgar Berlanga in his own backyard? Time will tell. Look forward to seeing Hamza Shiraz hit with bad intentions in this fight. Look forward for a stronger Hamza Shiraz. The winner of the jab game may very well walk away with this fight. I'm leaning toward Hamza Shiraz because I think he wins that jab game. I think he's able to control the pace of this fight with that jab and able to make Edgar Berlanga pay for those attempts to cross that void and make this a mid-range, close-range fight. And listen, with the power he's able to generate in either hand, he may even be able to stop Edgar Berlanga. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you never know. But still leaning toward Hamza Shiraz to walk away with this. Edgar Berlanga, listen, Edgar Berlanga's biggest achievement up until this day seems to be going 12 rounds with Canelo Alvarez and not getting knocked out, losing the fight, but not being locked out. Now, this is Edgar Berlanga's approach to boxing after that fight, as he's proclaimed himself and self-proclaimed himself one of the biggest stars in boxing. Yesterday's price wasn't today's price for him. He made his way away from the guy who got him into the fight, as far as Eddie Hearn is concerned, stuck with his manager, Keith Connolly, but said, man, listen, I'm not regular. I got to bet on myself. I got to be independent. I got to chase the bag. The promoter just gets in my way. And a lot of people looked at Edgar Berlanga with the crazy side eyes. He walked away from the guy who got him to the big show and Eddie Hearn. But look, maybe he's making everybody eat crow as we watch Edgar Berlanga on the back end of a horrible, he had a horrible opponent and was a co-headliner on the undercard of Amma Williams and I think Arthur Volney. I can't remember what his first name is, but Volney's his last name. And fighting a fighter who just came off of doing like 10 years in prison. It was horrible. He got rid of the guy inside of a round, but ultimately walked away from Matchroom at the end of that. Bet on himself. Where was Edgar Berlanga going to go? I couldn't see it. He's had so much. He's had indifferent experiences with Oscar De La Hoya. Him and Bob Arum, worked together back in the day, but ended up going in separate directions. And he walked away from Eddie Hearn. What was Edgar Berlanga going to do? Turki Al-Sheikh said, "I'll be a huckleberry. I got to fight for you. Got a young fighter, our Saudi Arabian golden boy that we want to get against Canelo Alvarez down the line." This could be a great fight for our fighter to have a common opponent with Canelo Alvarez. And listen, an opportunity for you to get redemption. You get the win of this fight. This is going to be an eliminator fight, I believe, for that WBC title. Puts him in that conversation. The winner of this fight arguably could be the next in line to fight Canelo Alvarez. You know how Canelo Alvarez carries it. He fights who he wants to fight. And now a fighter for Turki Al-Sheikh. Turki Al-Sheikh responsible to give him 3 more fights after he has this, 3 more fights after he has his fight with Terrence Crawford. The winner of this fight between Hamza Shiraz and Edgar Berlanga arguably can be in that conversation to be the next fight for him. So a lot running on the back end of this fight for both fighters. Edgar's going to have to show the poise. He's going to have to show the discipline. He's going to have to dial in. He's going to have to set up his shots, and he's going to have to get past a very educated jab of Hamza Shiraz, and he's going to have to avoid the shots that are going to be coming back from Hamza Shiraz. We're going to see Edgar Berlanga potentially dive into a bag of tools that he hasn't had to dive into his whole entire career. Maybe against Canelo Alvarez a little bit, but a lot of people felt like he kept his hands in his pockets a little too long with Canelo Alvarez. Having that respect of being knocked down by Canelo Alvarez just made it to that 12th round. And, his claim to victory was, I didn't get stopped by Canelo Alvarez, and I don't even feel like I got that hurt in that fight. Only him, God, Canelo Alvarez know what happened as far as pressure and as far as somebody being hurt in that fight. But Edgar feels like the next time around, he should be able to do something with Canelo. Well, this is a great way to get there, getting in the graces of Turki Al-Sheikh, putting on that performance against his golden boy in Hamza Shiraz. Oh, yeah. This right here is a formula for success for Edgar Berlanga if he can come on the other side of this with a victory against Hamza Shiraz. He's going to have to show poise. Guys, I'll say this, though. A wild card in this situation is Edgar Berlanga's been known to have a lot of emotional volatility about him, right? Lack of control, diving into his emotion, diving into his feelings, overextending himself. And at times when he's faced with adversity, showing frustration. We've seen Edgar Berlanga bite, hit people with low blows, use dirty tactics, dealing with real adversity in the ring. Well, in this fight right here against Hamza Shiraz, his ability to see what's happening, react to what's happening, be patient with the adversity and the walls that he might run into when he's fighting a fight like Hamza Shiraz, and he's got to get on that same page with his coach. Listen, dial into what the coaches are saying, execute, be patient, buy into the plan, believe in the strategy and the training that you did coming up to this point, and tune out the crowd and make this victory happen. The pressure's on Edgar Berlanga. The whole crowd should be supporting him. This is in his backyard. Big New York has the pressure of his child who's going to be watching him. Supporters like Fat Joe and the Terror Squad in the crowd watching him, and the whole New York City looking, and Puerto Rico looking for him to put a lot of people on the map on the back end of a victory here. A lot of pressure. They say the saying is pressure busts pipes or makes diamonds. Will a diamond get made at Edgar Berlanga? We'll find out on Saturday. I'm leaning towards Hamza Shiraz, 55-45, Hamza Shiraz fight, but looking forward to see Edgar Berlanga shock the world, because I know if he does, it's probably going to be a knockout. One way or another, all these fights I just broke down, we don't know exactly who's going to win. We're leaning where we're leaning. You guys have your own decisions and your own ideas of who you think is going to win. Leave it in the comment section. I can promise you one person who's guaranteed to win at the end of a card like this, and that's us, the fans, right? We all are going to win no matter what. So I'll be looking forward to see this develop. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Tell me your picks, who you're leaning to. What you think about my picks, man? Guys, catch me on Saturday. I'll be calling the live as well. Live commentary for me. I can't wait to call this one. Man, I'm fighting to be the best in the game at this commentating. I was about to say a bad word. This commentating-ish, man. I love the fight game. You can hear the passion in my voice, and I love to call these fights, and I can't wait to call these fights. Be there Saturday night. We'll be going up, calling this main card, making it happen, man. I'll see you guys there, guys. Thank you once again to all my subscribers. If this is your first time tapping into content, I told you in the beginning of the video, maybe I could have convinced you now after 30 minutes of giving you my take. Hit the subscribe button now, man. I won't even hold it against you, what you didn't do in the beginning. Hit it now. Hit the bell icon. Hit the notification so you're getting alerts. And on the next one, we'll be even better than this one. At this point, it's your boy Rain. At this point, we out. Deuces.